Hey, and welcome back to the channel. It is Tuesday night and we are live. And if you've been with us for the past several weeks, then you know we are right in the middle of our 7 weeks of inspiration. If you want to be inspired, if you want to hear from some other people who have jumped off the weight loss failure roller coaster and found their results, you need to go back and watch the 3 previous weeks where we've heard from Megan, who is our season 6 biggest transformation winner. You heard from Dan, and then last week you heard from Aisha. Talk about a powerhouse. Those 3, but we're taking a little break. It is Valentine's Day, and I thought what better time than to bring my husband, Mr. Jackie O'Quinn, on the channel. And but we'll talk about that in a minute, why he's here and what we're doing. Anyway, and then picking up right after this week, we're going to be going right back to finishing out our 7 weeks of inspiration. So make sure, if you are not, make sure you have hit the subscribe button, you have rang the notification bell. You're not going to want to miss any of these stories. Like, they're incredible.
I love these stories.
They're amazing.
They're awesome.
And so tonight we're asking my husband questions about my weight loss. My name is Carmen. If this is your first time here, this is Jackie. And
how much weight did you lose, Carmen?
Back in 2014, I topped the scale at 288 pounds. I was busting out of a size 22. We had a toddler and a newborn, and I started on a journey in 2014, wound up losing 161 pounds in 13 months. Went from a size 22 down to a size 2, a 2XL down to a size small, which totally shattered everything I ever thought, because I really was that woman that believed I was big boned and my mom was overweight and I was overweight, and it's just how my family rolled. And so we got some questions tonight, and he has graciously, he does not know what these questions are.
No, I don't.
He walked in.
I thought I was asking questions there for a second.
He walked in and said, we got some questions. I go, oh, do we got some questions? And so we have questions. I don't know how many we'll get through, but he's being a total good sport. He promised to answer honestly to all of them. And so first and foremost, how, was I small when you met me?
No, I almost said, when you said that you thought you were big bone, I was like, yeah, I mean, I did too. I just, not everybody has the same genetics. Some people are born differently. So no, not at all.
Yeah. So one of the questions on here, we'll just start with this. Was Carmen heavy when you married her?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was at my heaviest weight when he married me. So I was 288 pounds. My wedding dress was a size 24.
I didn't know what you weighed though. We never talked about that.
He never knew what I weighed. He didn't know what size I was in, because we never talked about it. Like, it was one of those things, like, I knew I was overweight, he knew I was overweight, but it was kind of like an off limit. Like, you just don't.
Yeah, that would be a horrible husband to, I shouldn't say that. Some people do that. No, that was never me. I was never gonna, I thought if it ever affected your health, that was what I told myself, then I would say something. When I made the decision to love you and be married to you, it was what it was.
So let's go ahead and dive in. We're gonna get through as many as we can. Was Carmen the first fluffy girl you ever dated?
Well, I mean, geez.
Some of these are like...
The fluffiest. I wouldn't say the first fluffy, the fluffiest. Like, I wasn't normally attracted to like bigger girls or nothing. That wasn't my MO.
And you dated one girl that was like 10, 20 pounds overweight?
No, I don't know. She's probably more than 10 or 20 pounds, but yeah, she wasn't. Can we just leave it in you were the fluffiest? God, that feels horrible.
He had never dated a morbidly obese woman, ever. I was the first one. It must have been my charm. Anyway.
Wow. Okay, this is where this is headed.
Did her size or weight ever bother you?
No, the thing that concerned me the most was that would it affect your health as you got older? That was what, I mean, she was very active. Like, she wasn't like anyone who's overweight knows there's judgments and stereotypes of being lazy and this sort of thing. You were never lazy. You were super active. You were building a multi-million-dollar business at the time. We did things. In fact, she avoided certain activities, but I wasn't even aware of it until years later when she lost weight. Like, horseback riding was something that you avoided. We
would be on a cruise and we'd be looking for an excursion, and he would say, hey, why don't we do horseback riding?
Yep.
And I would stall and be like, let me look at it. And I was immediately looking for the weight limit. As soon as I saw it was like 250 pounds, I was like, I don't know, babe, it's only 45 minutes. It's a lot of money. Why don't we find something out? Then he'd be like, let's go kayaking. Can we pick something without a weight limit?
So I was oblivious to this stuff, like super just oblivious, because I had never been overweight or lived that lifestyle. I've never been fluffy and like to that extent, and where I had to worry about weight limits and stuff. So I wasn't used to that world. So I was it's been eye-opening to me since she's lost weight to hear this stuff and to hear her with clients. And over here, my office is right across this wall. So sometimes when she's talking to clients or whatever, she's doing these Tuesday night calls or webinars or videos, whatever, then I hear stuff and I'm like, oh, really? That's a thing? Like, I didn't know secret eating was really a thing until I overheard it the first or second season, and we were talking about it. So I apologize for my ignorance. I did not know this stuff, and I felt horrible knowing that I would ask her after the fact, that I would ask her to do things that she was uncomfortable with, and I was probably stroking insecurities and that sort of thing, and it made me feel really bad when I found that out later, but it was not ever on purpose.
No, and he came back and he was like, Carmen, I am so sorry. And I'm like, well, like, how would you know? If you've never struggled with your weight, and of course I wasn't telling him, like, I never said to him, hey, I'm too fluffy, I'm over the weight limit, I can't get on the horse, they won't let me. He wouldn't know.
Yeah, and in all fairness, like, at the time, the heaviest part I was in my life was even years after we got married. So it wasn't even in that time period either. So I was totally oblivious for sure.
All right, next. These were all submitted by y'all. So.
For real?
Yeah.
No way.
Yes. All right. So, did you ever try to talk to her about her weight?
They're really asking these questions?
Yeah, they want to know.
No, I never did. I never did. I had two people approach me about talking about Carmen's weight. She had some family members that came to me at one point. I guess sometime in the period of us dating before we got married, she had gained some more weight.
I was gaining weight constantly.
I was oblivious. There was a time where I thought, I think she's gained some weight. But like, I saw her every day. We were together every day. And she had some family members that lived a couple hours away. And I remember I was at their house one time and they were like, have you noticed Carmen's gaining weight? Now, here's what's crazy. This is a married couple, and one of them was also morbidly obese. Just maybe less a little bit at the time. But they were coming to me. And honestly, if I'm going to be very honest, I was a little offended at first. And then I started feeling like, well, am I not paying attention? Should I be doing something here? But they wanted me to talk to her about her weight loss. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. Like, that's not going to help things. Like, I told him I could lead an example. I could start exercising more, which we did have a treadmill that.
That's the next question is, did you ever try to drop any hints about her losing weight?
Well, let me finish. So that was the only thing. I was like, I'll lead by example, and maybe, if she can do what she wants to do. And I even told them, unless I know it's affecting her health directly in the moment, if she goes to the doctor and she's got high blood pressure, something's going on, which by the way, this is crazy. She never carried an abnormal blood pressure. She carries a low blood pressure now, so maybe it was high then. Yeah, she carries a very low one now. So maybe she actually was carrying a high blood pressure then, but according to the textbooks, she wasn't carrying a high blood pressure at all. So I never said anything. And I had another person that was a family friend who mentioned something to me one other time. But other than that, no one ever mentioned anything. So as far as dropping hints, the only thing I ever did after that conversation is I would work out a little bit. I was not doing anything consistent. And it was like treadmill or trying to run, and I hate running. But if I did anything, I would just make it a point to tell her, hey, I went jogging today, or hey, I went running. And if she was taking it as a hint, she didn't let up. I mean, she let on. She was like, oh, that's cool.
Good job. Well, we had purchased, we weren't married yet. I had purchased, I don't really do anything halfway. And so when I thought maybe having a treadmill would be good. So one year I went online and I purchased the highest priced in-home Nordic Track with the little trainer thing that goes in.
The heaviest treadmill.
The heaviest treadmill. And it wound up in his laundry room because we were neighbors. And so he'd be like, hey, I'm going to use the treadmill. And I was like, good job, babe. I'm thinking, wow, someone needs to use it. I paid all this money for it. Like, awesome job.
And I did use it a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, next question. All right.
Wow.
What did you think? Did you ever worry that she was pregnant and morbidly obese?
Meaning when you were pregnant, was I concerned?
Yeah, because I was morbidly obese through both of my first two pregnancies. So did you ever worry about me being so overweight and pregnant?
No, not initially at all. So I have a medical background. I was an RN for 3 years. So before I started business and stuff. So I knew plenty of overweight women that had been pregnant. that didn't bother me so much when they found out that she was like borderline gestational diabetes. I mean, borderline, like, but I took that very serious, and she kind of blew it off. And I was like, no, babe. You know, even though they never had to do anything, all they did was monitor her. She was still borderline, and I knew part of that was weight induced. I knew that, and so I made a big deal about that. And then with the second child, Liberty, you had preeclampsia or whatever, and that wasn't necessarily weight induced, but I knew it complicated things, so that concerned me. But at that point, there's nothing you're gonna do. So you just prayed and hoped everything went well, and it did. Everything did obviously go well. But as far as did I get concerned that all of a sudden she was pregnant, she was overweight, that was not the first thing on my mind ever at all.
Okay.
You have to understand, she was in her 20s, or were you in 30s or early 30s or 20s when you first got pregnant?
30s.
Okay, but she was very active, very healthy, no known health issues. We did stuff, and so there was never any indication that she wasn't immobile. She wasn't at a point in life. Now, if she had gotten older and stayed overweight, obviously she probably would have developed knee pain and that sort of stuff, and all sorts of medical stuff could have started showing up a lot sooner in her life. But at that point in time, she was at the best anyone could tell. Outside of her weight, she was very healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no reason to assume that she would have a problem.
What did you think when Carmen told you she was going to lose weight and the amount she wanted to lose?
Because like anybody, it wasn't the first time you had attempted to lose weight or whatever. Like, we had both, specifically working out, we had both went through seasons of working out. I was the first person to ever bought any sort of workout products, workout like DVDs and stuff.
I had went into the oldies and Billy Blanks.
Okay, since we got married, or while we were together, those were around, by the way. While we were together, I think I was the first one that ever got anything, and I remember I watched it. I didn't do it, I just watched it. When she came home from work one day, she was watching me watch the workout program. And I did it for a couple of weeks and quit. And then sometime later, you did a little bit. And then I think there was a period there where we both might have done 90 days of a workout, maybe, or 2 months. And then we kind of stopped. What happened was there was a moment where she was going to start back working out. And it was our third or fourth attempt at working out. Same type of program, same ones we do today, right? And she said it was a Tuesday or Wednesday. And it was like supper time. And then we eat together as a family a lot of times. And she said that night at supper, she's like, I'm starting tomorrow working out. And that was different. And I was like, oh, okay. And I knew something was different because she was starting in the middle of the week. We always waited until the Monday. And suddenly it was like, now, right? But I don't think we discussed initially how much you were trying to lose. Those conversations started coming up as you started going down the path.
Yeah, not that far, a month or two in.
A month or two in, she was like, I would like to get back into a bikini. I remember that. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, as a husband, that's awesome. And I had seen one picture of her before we were married, early in dating, where she'd had a bikini at the beach. And she wasn't small, like she wasn't a size 2 or anything, but it looked good on her. And it was like, okay, I mean, I can jive with that. Let's go. But you don't say anything. You're like, okay, cool. That's awesome, babe. And you don't want to, put pressure or anything. So then as she started losing weight, you started talking about how much you were going to lose. And then it was like, okay, let's go. And then she was like, I'm going to do this for like a year. And see, she started opening up more and more about what her intentions were as she was going down the process. And then, one night she tells me she's going to get down to like a size 2 or 4 or 6 or something. I think it was a 6 originally.
Yeah, because I never even knew I could do it too. So 6 was, yeah.
And I was like, in God's world, we don't know what a size 6 is. So she was telling me people in our life that were probably a size 6. And I was like, oh, really? Oh, okay. And I had to watch my nonverbal because I didn't want to seem like you can't do that. I didn't want to create any feelings for her. So I was like, okay. And then one time she told me she was going to be in fitness and be like a fitness model, a fitness expert. And you got to understand, at this point in time, you still had 80, 100 pounds
I
to
was
lose?
over 200 pounds still.
And I remember that was the one time that it was like, what are you talking about? Like,
I'm gonna sprout wings and fly. Like that's you're in my head. I'm still like, but you're big bone. Like, what are you talking about? Like, how's that possible? And in order to do that in my head, I'm thinking, do you know you got to live a radically different life than you lived up to 30-something years old?
Yeah.
And so it literally did. 95% of me thought it was probably going to be impossible. I didn't say that. I mean, I was like, oh yeah, really? And we kind of had a joke about it. We kind of laughed about it. And at no point in time was I trying to say you can't do that, but it was shocking. And then there was about 5% of me that thought, she's so serious this time. I wonder how far she's going to take this.
Did Carmen Lizine weight make you insecure at all?
No, it had nothing to do.
Okay. How do you handle extra attention she gets from guys?
She's my wife. What you talking about? It's actually not even the guys are the worst. It's the girls. Like, you women it blows my mind. I catch more women checking out my wife all the time. And some of the looks, and I'm like, get a grip, lady. But yeah, guys too. So what? What's the alternative? You know, they're looking at my wife because she's beautiful. And, you know, I actually don't care. You know, I always tell her, I was like, anybody's gonna notice an attractive human, myself included, by the way. It's when they look back that second or that third time, or that lingering look, and then I gotta let them know I know. But it doesn't bother me.
He'll be like, turning around. I'm like, would you stop it?
No, if they can stare at you, I can stare at them. Like, I mean, I just want you to know, I know you're checking out my wife, dude. So, but it really isn't that big of a deal, and it's not. You know, and it's probably a bigger deal when I'm not around. You know, she tells me stories and stuff. Some dude tried to buy her groceries at the grocery store one time. So, you know, it's probably a bigger deal when I'm actually not around.
Does it bother you that she can now wear tighter clothes and less clothing than she did before?
No, I'm thankful. Like, for real? I'm always like, that covers up too much.
We do have some clothes. We do have some clothes that are date night only clothes. Like, there's some dresses, some shirts that I only wear with him because obviously they're like very provocative type clothing, and that would just be like, who else am I wearing them for? So there are some clothes that are like date night only, and I wear them when I'm with you.
So a lot of these questions are really related to marriage and relationship questions and insecurities in marriage and relationship. And it's important to understand that even though we have had challenges, particularly early in our marriage, very early in our marriage, that is a whole different can of worms altogether. We've worked really hard on intentionally wanting to have a good relationship, and we've worked really hard on ourselves as people. So a lot of these would require her having significant insecurities that she doesn't, or me having significant insecurities that I don't necessarily have. It's not that, I'm not saying that we're not insecure in certain areas, we're human. But like the clothing question, she's very much more conservative dressing than even I would give her permission to be a little bit more out there, but she's very much conscious, specifically, like she said, when I'm not around. If I thought she was the type of woman that was out there wanting to flirt with guys, if I thought she was the type of woman trying to get guys' attention on purpose, if I thought that's who she was, and if I thought that was what was going on, then yeah, I would probably have a problem with it. But that's not who we are. It's not how I feel about our relationship, our marriage, and who we are as people. So it's not that big of a deal.
How has Carmen losing 161 pounds changed your marriage the most?
So, God, this is a loaded question. I mean, there's a lot in here. A couple things. First of all, it probably not the way that the person asking the question may think. It didn't change our marriage. Like, let me just say how it did change our marriage. It allowed a lot of openness in an area that she was carrying a lot of doubt and concern, despair, whatever the word is. A lot of her insecurities were rooted in her weight, and I was oblivious to it because Carmen always came off very confident. And so a lot of things I was oblivious to. Some of the things, like, you know, typically someone who lives an overweight lifestyle tends to do like secret eating, stuff like that. Being aware, always conscious of things like getting on airplanes, you know, always getting on carnival rides or whatever, because she has been asked to get off of a ride before. And back then I wouldn't discuss it with her much because I knew that it wasn't a comfortable thing for her, so I wouldn't go there. Now being able to share that stuff, there's a connection that exists, and even a trust that gets built, sharing that together. Plus, we both tend to be more healthy now. We both tend to have work to have a very we work to have a
flex.
we've worked to have a healthy we work to have a healthy relationship with working out and food and that sort of thing, and we kind of can do it together. We don't necessarily hold each other accountable. We don't necessarily, scold one or another for missing a workout or eating the wrong foods per se, but we're definitely aware of it. We share this lifestyle together, and that creates another area of being able to connect. Her being able to dress more provocative is nice to me. More female, let's just say that. Being able to wear clothes that fit and not trying to cover up her form. That is so awesome. Seeing her feel more confident when she puts on clothes, I think it's awesome. She's like, is this too tight? I'm like, nope. And then she's like, don't you think this is too tight? Nope. And so I think that's awesome to be able to see in her and her have that kind of confidence. The bedroom, I don't mind telling you this. I mean, since we're talking about it, it absolutely changed the bedroom in so many ways that I could not have imagined. We've talked with friends that were overweight and then lost weight. And it's amazing because you're oblivious to what you don't know. And I'll just say that it changed a lot of things in the bedroom. That was kind of wild and crazy and totally unexpected. Like some of it is common sense, but then the length of changes or the amount of changes that we weren't totally expecting. And we've talked about that at length. So that's been unbelievable. Even energy, right? Even things like energy in the bedroom.
Energy, stamina, positions, confidence, all the things that it really takes to have a good, healthy sex life. And not that we didn't have a good sex life when I was morbidly obese. That's not what I'm saying. But it is just increased, and intimacy. When there's a deeper level of trust there, and there's more intimacy in communication, it's easier to be intimate in the bedroom as well.
Yeah, and I think also the non-physical intimacy, the connection, because I didn't get jealous, because there was never this weird riff, and someone losing a lot of weight does strain a relationship. I only know that because I've seen it a lot. But because it didn't cause that rift and we survived that and we got through that, even if there had been some struggle there, anytime you overcome something together as a couple, you grow closer together as a couple. And her weight loss journey was no different. It definitely brought us closer together in the long run as a couple, for sure.
So we have a lot of moms that watch here on the channel, or people that want to be moms. So there's a lot of questions that came in on how has me losing the weight impacted me as a mother? Has it impacted our family? Has it impacted our kids? Lots of questions regarding those things.
Carmen's always been a great mother. So she's been very intentional. And in fact, if you know her weight loss story, part of her weight loss story, her tipping point was being a mom and realizing how being overweight could affect her kids. And there's a whole story behind that. But the thing that is obvious now, so just last night, she was, and I didn't think of this until this question, but she was, playing with the kids and sparring. Our kids do jujitsu. She's playing with them, and they're young, 10 and 8. She could not have done that morbidly obese. Like it wouldn't have been possible with a small child to be able to practice jujitsu moves. And you gotta understand, when she was morbidly obese and she started working out, she couldn't do a sit up or push up the first, like not even. And it wasn't even pretty to watch, to be honest with you. But now watching her roll around with the kids and everything else, and you're naturally sitting up and doing stuff, she can do those things, having more energy. We live a pretty active lifestyle as a family, going camping and stuff like that. She can do all those things now. And I told you that we lived a very active lifestyle, but our lifestyle is far more active now than it was even then. And kids keep you active. And we were in our 30s before we had kids. So we recognize we're growing older with young kids. So in that aspect, I think it makes her a better mom because she has more stamina, can play with the kids, do more things with the kids. But being a mom is being a mom. Like if you're a bad mom and you're fluffy, you're going to be a bad mom when you don't have weight. So, and here's what it does too. Our kids we work really hard, and I'm not saying we're perfect at it or whatever, because part of parenting is the kids, right? We work really hard at teaching our kids to have a healthy relationship with food. So like our kids are very aware of serving sizes, for example. They know they know if they get a bowl of cereal, they can tell you if they're having more than one serving of cereal. Now we're not big on trying to control food. We're not big on trying to necessarily restrict food, outside the fact that we don't have a lot of junk in the house. She operates under a principle of 80-20. We get a little loose on the holidays. We get loose when we go on vacation. But the kids know if we're coming home and it's like, hey guys, we've been a little bit loose, eating a bunch of junk food. And we don't talk about weight per se, as far as how you look. as much in the house, but we talk about things like having energy, being healthy. They're familiar what their kind of like their BMI, we don't call it that, but they do like, where their weight falls on the percentile for their age group and their height and all that stuff. They're just aware of it, and it's just being aware of it. They have a healthy relationship with the scale. They'll weigh themselves and just say what they weigh because they're alert. And so we're trying to make them aware without creating a bunch of feelings or fears or insecurities. It's just info.
Emotions.
Yeah, it's just info. It's just data and trying those sort of things.
Yeah. All right. We'll take a couple more.
All right, am I doing okay on these?
I mean, is he doing okay? Let us know in the comments. Is he doing okay? I think he's doing great, but I might be biased, but I think you're doing great. And I think it's so good because so often we don't get to hear the husband's perspective on these things. And the amount of questions you guys had, thank you for all of you that submitted questions, by the way. How did you respond when you realized she was being secretive about secret eating, wearing Spanx, cutting out tags in her clothing, all of those things?
That's a rough question. It really bothered me because it was a level of insecurity that I didn't know that she had, and it bothered me that she felt that way around. She didn't need to feel that way around me. And I was so oblivious to all that stuff, like so oblivious. So when I found out she was doing these things, I felt like that was so unnecessary, and she was so, and I didn't like the way that she had to feel. That's what bugged me, to know that my wife felt that way, and she still had to hide those things from me. Obviously, she didn't have to hide those things. That was her choice and her insecurities, but just knowing that, so it bothered me for her.
Yeah. And so often when we talk about that stuff, and one of the best parts that's come from me losing the weight is realizing I could trust him and I could be open. And he married me at my heaviest. Like, obviously he didn't marry me thinking I ate super healthy or was super active. But so often he'll get emotional. I'm like, why are you, like, this wasn't your fault. Like, you didn't know. And he's like, I know, but it bothers me that you put yourself through that and that you couldn't tell me. And so, yeah. Did your family ever have a problem with your wife's weight?
Yeah, I think so. They did. They said they didn't. They said they didn't. But you have to understand, I do think so. Because you have to understand there's always judgment. And it just is a sad fact. It is a reality. And it doesn't make it wrong or right. It is what it is. You just have to accept that. So I knew when my family met her that she was the fluffiest person that I had ever been with.
And in the family.
No. That's not true. That is not true. I have cousins and stuff. That's not true, babe.
The immediate family.
Yes, in my immediate family, for sure. I have cousins and people who've married other people and whatnot. But in my immediate family, for sure. If you talk about, like, my brother, my mom, and that sort of thing. So for sure. So do they say a whole lot? No. Did they ever make a big deal about her weight? No. None of that. Was there judgment? I think so. And it didn't matter, but whatever.
What would you say to someone who has a spouse with a weight problem and doesn't know what to do or how to react or what to say?
Well, the only thing I can say is, it's like so many things in our marriage. It is not our job to fix our spouse. We'll never be able to fix our spouse. Because any attempt to fix them, all you're going to do is pressure them and criticize or critique. It's never going to come across well at all, ever. That doesn't matter if they have a spending problem, an alcohol problem. This is like marriage counseling 101 type stuff. So all you can do is look at yourself and say, am I a good example? And it is not good enough to say, well, I'm not as bad as. Like, I'm overweight, but I'm not morbidly obese. She's morbidly obese, or he's morbidly obese. I could lose an extra 40 pounds. Well, if you can lose an extra 40 pounds, focus on losing your 40 pounds. The reality is, and by the way, if they start to take positive, like, I was supportive of her working out from the get-go. I was like, yeah, that's awesome. Way to go. Good job. So I was supportive. If they take steps in the right direction, if they decide they're going to start to be conscious with their diet, for example, and they even mention it on their own, then when they do that, make a big deal about it. Positive reinforcement, genuine encouragement. But the challenge is if you've been critiquing and then you start encouraging, it's not the same way. So if you're critiquing already and you're pressuring already, stop immediately. They need to feel loved and supported, because it's hard for them to make a journey of change if they're going to make it and they feel they're making it in an environment where they're almost being forced or pressured to make that. They need to make their own life decisions. So I would say just encourage them when they make good decisions. Look at yourself, lead by example, because here's what happened for us. In an entire year, she had this mega transformation, 161 pounds in 13 months. So in 13 months, now it's important for you to understand, originally we started working out together and I made it, 90 days or something, and then stopped. I was like, you can keep going. And I always planned to get back and I didn't. And I would watch her struggle with her workouts, but she still did them every single day, or 5 days a week, 6 days a week, whatever she was doing. And I saw this change happen. Then something happened inside of me. And at the time I was probably, I think I was at my heaviest. I was 216 at my heaviest. And I remember thinking, wow, her entire life, body, physique, mental attitude, like everything about her changed in just 13 months. 13 months in a lifetime is nothing. You know, everybody wants to get that 6-pack in 30 days or whatever. But if you think about it, 13 months is nothing to make that kind of change. And I thought, I wonder what would happen to me if I focused on working out for a year straight. And I ended up going on my own journey for a year and lost 40 pounds or whatever. And it was by her example. You know, so I was sort of doing a little bit more working out early on, like even just before she started, I was the one kind of starting and stopping the most, so to speak. And when she started, she had 1 or 2 stops, but then she eventually just kept going. And then being able to see her transformation created a transformation in me. I'm not saying that's always going to be the case, but it's very difficult to encourage somebody when they're looking back at you, because when you're overweight, they're looking back at you and they're like, you know, what room do you have to talk, kind of thing. So if you live a healthy lifestyle, by the way, your healthy lifestyle is not determined on them living a healthy lifestyle. Some change may happen on its own, is what I'm trying to tell you. So they're more likely to be like, hey, I wonder if I could lose 10 pounds. I wonder if I could lose 5 pounds. I wonder if I don't want to do the workouts you're doing. I wonder if I could start walking, which, by the way, is huge. And you never know where that little bit of glimmer is going to ultimately go. But listen, you married who you married. And you cannot force them, critique them, criticize them when they fall off the bandwagon. You cannot do that. It's just not going to work ever. And it just creates strife in marriage. I'd rather have a happy marriage with someone who's obese than have a unhappy marriage trying to force someone to become less obese.
Well, Jackie, we didn't get through all of them. We got through most of them. So didn't you do awesome answering open and honest? And I know it's never easy to be put on the spot about like this sensitive topic, like your wife's weight and when she was overweight and how did you feel? But I love your transparency.
We didn't even talk about the lingerie. So let me tell you how clueless I was. I would buy my wife lingerie and it wouldn't be the plus size. And it
was one size, you know, the one size fits most.
Well, she wasn't the most.
Fluffy girls aren't most. It's the 0 to 12 that are the most.
But I didn't know. So I was creating all these insecurities and...
No, he would get it and he would give it to me and I'd be like, this isn't going to fit. And I would try it on. And then he'd get mad because he'd be like, you didn't wear what I bought you. Why don't you want to wear it? And I would, I can remember I was like, it doesn't fit. He's like, but it was one size. I'm like, that doesn't work for plus size, curvy...
Yeah, I was clueless. I feel so bad about that.
No, and then he was like, I am so sorry.
Oh my goodness. Dude, I felt horrible.
But then he learned that on the website for
lingerie,
there was a plus size button. You had to hit that. And then one size, we were good.
What's crazy is how that even changes. Like you don't even look at the whole plus size thing anymore.
No plus size section shopping. Which
you know what else is crazy? As her husband is we would be shopping or something in a mall or anywhere there's a bunch of people, and I would see her and I would go to walk up to her, the chick would turn around and it wasn't her, and then I would see Carmen walking up and she's like, you know, a third smaller than this person that I thought was her. And it's like my eye wasn't even catching up with how quickly her body was changing, which was wild. Mm-hmm. All right, sorry, let him go.
And so next week, we are going to be picking back up with our 7 weeks of inspiration. You're going to be meeting a client, Heather Noggle, who lost an insane amount of weight. She's an incredibly tenacious, lively, bold, like just an amazing woman. And so make sure you join us back next week, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will see you then.
Oh, am I supposed to wave?